Oh, it's happened a lot actually. So
Wow.
Somebody told me later a 3-prong cord is safer than a 2-prong.
Yeah, because of grounding.
Never used an extension though for appliances though. So the 3-prong is safer, but don't ever use like an extension to plug in like a major appliance in your basement because that's also risky. Just like the direct, just get like one with a long cord. But if anyone's interested, my email's I think on here. If you want to email me, I can kind of show you what I'm talking about, so I don't take the whole time talking about surge protectors.
Well, I let them know that if you know how they are, the center point or any utilities, they tell you they'll be here between 1 and 8 or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm waiting. They may get me in earlier. They said otherwise it's not till tomorrow morning. But so if I have to jump out, I'll let you know that I'm going to go get heat.
Yeah, between January the 1st and 4th of July, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I want to welcome you guys to the online meeting space. We're so happy to be here, especially in the wintertime when it's cold and people don't like to travel outside. It took us a long time to get here. So I'm happy that we can test it out and we have some success. So I want to say welcome to everybody and of course, Happy New Year. Just to keep some things in mind while we have a meeting today, I want to make sure that we understand that we should mute when we're not speaking to minimize background noise. And remember that this is a public meeting as well. So just to make sure your background is okay. If you want things in the background, just because it is going to be online, I just want to, sometimes I know some people have children or whatever the case may be. So just want to make sure that you guys have everything you need. And of course, use video if you want to, but if you don't feel ashamed, you can always keep your video off if you would like. So I just wanted to keep those things in mind, but having a video on does enhance engagement. So just wanted to say those things. And lastly, we are going to be doing a transcription for the meeting. So if you are okay with that, it's already recorded for public use, but we're also going to do a transcription of the meeting for written purposes, for note taking. So, which is better for note taking, right? To be honest. So it's really nice.
I think
I'm
that's a
excited for
great
that.
innovation.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to go ahead and start that, and then I'll hand it over to the co-chairs, chairs of the meeting.
Okay, great. And I believe we said that the meeting is being recorded, and so not to put any questions or comments in the chat because then the public can't read that. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. That's correct, Vanessa.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure with that.
So yeah, just raise your hand when you do have a question and we'll call on you instead of putting it in the chat.
Okay, great.
Vanessa, you want to call the meeting to order or do you want me to jump in there?
Oh, you go ahead, jump in. I'm having a little technical issue, so go ahead.
All right. Well, obviously, this is our first meeting here, but I really appreciate the opportunity to even test this. We've had difficulty with quorum for some time now, and we're going to try this here and see if we do a little bit better. But obviously, we've had quorum today, and I think for me, this is the first time we've had quorum in the last year and a half, maybe a while now. So I appreciate you all showing up, and maybe it's an indication of what we should be doing going forward. So anyway, I call this meeting to order. First order of business is approval of the agenda. If there's no suggestion of changes, I will assume that the agenda is approved as presented. There's motions here, but it's just we already have the agenda is presented here.
And I think we have a question as well.
So, yes.
Go.
Who has a question?
Sorry, this is Carmi Ann. It appears the date on the agenda is wrong, and I'm not sure why that would be.
Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be the 21st. I'll correct that. Thank you. All want to state.
All right. We got that? At this point, then we'll, right here, at this point, we have to, we are at the approval of the agenda of the previous meetings. And so our next order of business, approve the minutes from November 19th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from 2019 to 24?
Second.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
The motion has been made and seconded. I'm not sure how you're tracking this one. I've got Tyrone and
Mitchell.
somebody else here.
Yes, we need folks to state their name, if they make the motion or if they second the motion. And then we will go down actually the list of members, and each person will state whether or not they vote yes or no.
Okay, Dr. Tyrone Carter, I make a motion that the minutes are adopted.
Is there a second?
Mitchell Hansen, I second that motion.
Of course, it's been made and seconded. Any other comments or speakers? If none, all those in favor of approving the agenda or the minutes as presented? You made that motion and you got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
So we will go down the list, and each person will state whether they're in favor or not.
So we're doing a roll call for each
Yes.
motion? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Give us just a quick moment. Let's pull up the names of the committee members. Tori, do you have that up?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead and call each name, and when your name is called, please state whether or not you are for or against the motion.
Anita,
Approve. So move.
Brittany,
Aye.
okay, good. Carmen,
Aye.
Dr. Councilmember Tyrone Carter,
Aye.
Edward,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Aye.
Samira,
Aye.
Co-Chair Vanessa.
Aye.
All right, that's everyone.
Thank you, everyone,
And-
for bearing with us.
All right, we'll get this right. Okay, at this point, the motion did pass. So at this one, we're looking at public invitation. So the public is invited to comment on the meetings that we have. They're given up to 5 minutes. Right now, I don't think we have any members of the public. We'll have to look at how that's going to be handled now that we're virtual. If they have to get in something ahead of time or anyway, we need to take a look at how we handle that going forward. But at this point, I do not believe that there is a member of the public that wishes to come before the body. I'll to ask again, is there anybody wishing to speak before the body? If not, we'll move on. And so agenda now, we move to the agenda. All speakers, please state your name and title before your presentation starts. With that, I'm turning it over to Lila and have an end of year 2024 wrap up presentation.
Great, thank you.
Bear with me, guys. I'm pulling the presentation back. Okay. So from beginning.
All right, thank you for joining us, everyone. We wanted to start out by doing a quick end of the year, just an overview and wrap up. We just have a few quick slides that we're going to go over, and then we'll move into our only presentation for the night. We're going to go over current membership and vacancies. We'll have an opening statement, the purpose of the end of the year statement, 2024 impactful presentations, EAC achievements and wins, and then we're going to highlight a few EAC members in this as well. Next slide, please. All right, this is our current membership list and vacancies. Tori has sent out an email to everyone who has a seat that has come due. We will also be reaching out with a process to reapply. We will also start recruiting very soon here. We'll be working with our communications team to work on our recruiting process, and we'll share that with you as we have that ready. Next slide, please. We wanted to wish you all a happy new year. We haven't, this is our first meeting together since the new year. We canceled December's. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. Your contributions to the council as equity advisory committees, as equity advisory committee members is valuable. And some of the areas that you all supported was just supporting a resilient region and protecting our public waterways and parkland to sustain our environment, connecting people to places and foster inclusive economic growth. And that is by your advice and your contributions to projects and programs and policies that come to the committee for your review. Next slide, please. The purpose of the end of the year statement is to review and reflect on progress and achievements. I think we're always in review mode and advice mode. I don't think we spend enough time just reflecting and just thinking about the achievements that the committee has achieved. Highlights the importance of the EAC impact on decision-making processes within the council, identify and celebrate successful initiatives and wins, and emphasize the significance of membership diversity and stakeholder support in advancing equity initiatives. Next slide, please. Advisory roles on projects presented. The most impacted, I think, projects, we try to come up with some of the areas that we thought were most impacted. Workforce development updates, small business equity audit was a big one. Community center engagement, regional development guide. The EAC contributed through several, several presentations. The advice that you all gave was very, very valuable and was taken back and, reflected on and taken in by the folks who presented throughout the process. And of course, the regional development guide was, written and created over the last few years. And so they presented multiple times throughout the last few years. And then the environmental justice framework. Next slide, please. Some of our achievements this last year, 2024, was we onboarded new members. We successfully welcomed new folks and integrated them into the EAC. We held an EAC retreat as well. And we had specific presentations that organized and highlighted key presentations that provided valuable insights and information to the regional development guide, as we stated before. And then we finally finalized the bylaws. For folks who've been here for a while, it took a really long time to get those bylaws updated, but we finally got them updated in 2024. And so that was a big, big achievement for the EAC. And of course, without the committee, pushing for the change and, at the beginning of the bylaw update, the committee actually updated the bylaws themselves. Yes, absolutely. Committed the bylaws themselves or updated the bylaws themselves. And then from that copy, from that draft, we were able to update internally. So thank you to everyone who contributed to the bylaws change, and congratulations on that. Tori, next slide. We wanted to recognize some of our members. and acknowledges some ongoing participation within the EAC. So special recognition for attendance. Councilmember Tony Carter, who showed up tonight in person. So I sent her the link for the meeting. I hope she's on. We'll check in with her in a minute as well. Tori, I don't know if you can just follow up on emails while we get through this, and then I'll follow up after we get off.
Yes.
Councilmember Tony Carter had exceptional commitment with outstanding attendance this year. Councilmember John Pacheco, notable dedication and participation throughout the year. Michael Lucini, thank you for the consistent involvement. Samira Isa, recognizing your valuable contributions this year. Mitchell Hansen, appreciating your active participation and support. Thank you for all of your suggestions and your contributions. And then special recognition for leadership, co-chair Vanessa Jenkins. Thank you for your ongoing leadership as co-chair for the last 2 years.
And I just want to do a special shout out to Leah. I wanted to do this one special. Leah has always helped with if we needed anything, literally somebody to sit on a committee to help review people to come on the committee, somebody to do anything we asked Leah to do. She was always stepping up, and I really want to say thank you for that, Leah. Your support is unmeasurable. So I really want to say thank you for that.
I just wanted to know for the minutes that Mercedes Yarborough just joined the meeting about several minutes ago.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We will also take attendance as well after the meeting, just to make sure that we didn't miss anyone at the beginning. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for letting us know. All right, next slide.
By the way, this is Tony. I am here.
Awesome. I was a little worried I had to jump into the presentation. So thank you so much for letting us know. And I'm happy you made it. Thank you.
I was here at the council anyway, so yeah, just finishing the meeting.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. And this wonderful quote, Tori and I had the opportunity to participate at the Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast yesterday. And Tori picked this quote. And by the way, Tori put this presentation together. So thank you, Tori. Make a career of humanity. Commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. All right.
It's just who you guys embody on an everyday basis. So we definitely appreciate your public service.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
So I'll go ahead and pass it back to the co-chairs.
All right. Again, I said, thank you for the presentation. It's good to be reminded that all the times we did meet, we did accomplish some things, and we learned some things from each other. And I think that's important as well. So thanks for the recognition here. Now we're moving down the agenda. And so presenting today with Julie Martinez from Nicollet Mall Project.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kathleen Mayle, and I'm from the city of Minneapolis. I'm a transportation planning manager in Public Works. I've been working on this project for over a year now. And Kyle, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. Good evening, everyone. Kyle O'Donnell Burrows. I'm planning manager for arterial BRT here at Metro Transit, part of the council. And Kathleen and I, along with many of our colleagues, both at the city of Minneapolis and at Metro Transit, have been working on looking at Nicollet Mall and looking at some changes to Nicollet Mall that are coming, and thinking about transit options here. And so Kathleen has some materials to share this evening, and then she and I will both be available for questions as well.
Thanks, Kyle. And yeah, thanks again for having us. So we've got about, maybe 10 to 15 minutes worth of slides. Happy to answer questions along the way. If you have them, feel free to just interrupt me, and that's great. Here's what we're going to cover. So to start with, on the next slide, please, what are we talking about? So Kyle mentioned a little bit. So slide 3 would be great. The city has established a vision to pedestrianize Nicollet Mall, and which is being led by a number of different city-led initiatives, plans, as well as outside initiated efforts outside of the city, coordinated efforts. And there is city-backed policy initiative to look at transit downtown, improve transit as a key focus. And so we are seeing the opportunity with this vision and recent focus on pedestrianization of Nicollet Mall as a really big opportunity to improve transit downtown. And so if we go to the next slide, that kind of lays the foundation for what we're doing. And these are a couple of these are the major planning documents that have been established over the last year or two, starting in June of 2023 with the Mayor's Vibrant Downtown Storefront Work Group report, and putting out there, I think the idea of looking at Nicollet Mall as a pedestrian-only street, various iterations have been around for a long time, but putting into more focus that was a concept to really start to seriously consider and work toward. The Downtown Next was a Minneapolis Foundation report, which similarly had a similar theme. Downtown Action Plan was released by the city last fall and focuses in as a key strategy of making Nicollet Mall a pedestrianized main street. And then the Minneapolis Downtown Council released in December their Downtown by Design Minneapolis 2035 plan, and a cornerstone of that plan as well is making Nicollet Mall pedestrian only. So next slide, please. This is our major city transportation planning document, the Transportation Action Plan. This was passed by City Council in 2020 and outlines hundreds of actions and over 50 strategies of how to work on transportation in the city over the decade from 2020 to 2030. There's a lot in there about transit. We did partner with Metro Transit when we were creating this document. And we have a strategy in there around increasing the speed and reliability of transit, and a specific action around improving transit speed and reliability downtown, with a focus on Nicollet Mall, Marquette, and Second Avenues, as those are really important transit corridors through the downtown core. Next slide, please. So to give a little bit more detail and an overview about what's happening on Nicollet Mall today related to transit, is there are 5 transit routes that run on Nicollet Mall, over 650 buses a day, and an average speed of 5 miles per hour. One of the reasons that speed is maybe lower than anticipated, there's a 10-mile-per-hour speed limit. Also, the way Nicollet Mall is set up, one transit lane each direction, buses can't pass each other. It's a really important corridor. It carries the most passengers of any corridor in the city, in the region, upper Midwest. And you can see some of the demographic profile characteristics of who's riding on the mall. We see almost 12,000 people getting on and off the mall each day. And so with a high percentage experiencing poverty, low income, without access to a vehicle, and so on. Yeah, Mitchell, go ahead. Oops, you're muted, Mitchell.
Sorry, I'll get used to it. So it's like pretty specific data. So I was just kind of wondering where the demographic information was pulled from.
So it's census data, and yeah, I apologize that the source isn't listed here in terms of years. Maybe Kyle, I think those are on our boards while we're going. Would you mind checking that out?
Yeah, and Kathleen, I can actually, the data that we're looking at here is for the riders who use Nicollet Mall routes. So that's the 10, 11, 17, 18, and 25. And this is self-reported data from the 2022 Travel Behavior Inventory survey that the Metropolitan Council does. So it's a fairly robust, region-wide travel behavior survey. And one component of that is getting out and riding buses and interviewing riders. And then this demographic data is a self-reported component of that survey.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Kyle. And apologies that I said the wrong thing. Nicollet Mall, this chart in the upper left, on the x-axis, shows passenger delay. This is a metric that Metro Transit tracks for routes and corridors throughout the region. And you can see each blue dot is a different corridor in their system. And Nicollet Mall is an outlier when it comes to passenger delay. On the y-axis is the city's transportation equity priority score. This is a metric that we developed as a part of our racial equity framework for transportation that looks at a number of different community demographics and is how the city considers, not that it's the only consideration, but how it considers geographic-based equity from different census data that is readily accessible. So we see a fairly high transportation equity priority score and an outlier when it comes to passenger delay, which points toward aligning with our city policy in terms of improving transit for a lot of people who could really benefit from improvements to transit. Next slide, please. This places those planning documents on a timeline from June of 2023 through June of 2025. In this past fall, we engaged along with Metro Transit staff a lot of people, and we'll share results of that engagement, introduce concepts of where transit may move to. And then starting last month and continuing through this month, we've been doing a lot of different other, additional engagement events, talking more in detail about the trade-offs between the three options, providing more information about what this would mean in terms of transferring, and this, a lot more details as we've developed the technical side of the work. Also, is really being step one of a process that will continue then for a number of years. So there's ongoing kind of adjacent to, but slightly different work in terms of planning for a pedestrianized Nicollet Mall. We will begin to develop a capital transit project on whichever corridor is selected or corridors. We plan to execute a memorandum of understanding with Metro Transit for those transit changes. And we're looking at the earliest implementation of buses off the mall in 2026. And then a completion of that capital project would be depending on what corridor was chosen. And I saw a hand. Anita.
So my question is, when you talk about engagement, you talked about the plan being made, and then you talk about engagement. So what's the purpose of the engagement? Is it to tell them about the plan that's already made, or is it to get input on a plan being made? There's a difference.
Right. Thank you for the question. The focus has been on the city's plan is to move transit from the mall, and what do people think of the different options that are being presented, of where it would move to, how it would impact them, what works, what is challenging, and so on. So that has been the focus of the engagement of phase one.
Okay.
Thanks. Next slide, please. There are two major goals of this work. One is to increase downtown vibrancy and another is to improve downtown transit. There are a number of sub-goals listed here that deal with and that focus on transit rider experience, convenient, safe, comfortable transit access with great waiting experiences, a simple, easy to use transit experience, and that we're able to plan for growth of our different transit systems downtown. In terms of the downtown vibrancy, how are we improving many different elements of transportation through this work, including walking, rolling, biking, and transit to and within downtown? Are we able to increase greening to support a good pedestrian environment, improving curb access, maintaining parking and delivery access to buildings, and how a change would either improve perceived or real safety on the street? So we've got metrics for these different goals that we are measuring the different options against. And overall, we are looking for transit to be as good or better than what exists on Nicollet Mall today. That is a goal of this work. Next slide, please. So in the fall, these are the different activities we did. We had an online survey. We had pop-ups on Nicollet Mall. We were on the bus talking with folks. And we had different formal presentations, an open house, and different online pieces. So I'm seeing Mercedes question in the chat, and yes, the community input does matter. I understand that, you know, the input and what everyone says, like not everyone's going to be happy with decisions that are being made or, you know, their preferred option, and it might be better for some people and not from others. And if you flip to the next slide, please. That's absolutely what we have heard to date in terms of what we heard during phase one. So I'll share on the next slide some details here, but we do have a 5-page document summarizing all the different pieces we heard, including all the raw comments, which there was a lot, and kind of all the survey questions broken down and everything. So if you're interested, that is certainly available to dig into, but I do have summarized on the next slide what we heard. Big picture, there was a mixed reaction. A lot of uncertainty about what this would mean for folks. A lot of people who didn't want to see transit change. So the top right chart shows this is a direct survey question about which option do you like best. About a third of the people said they didn't want to see it change. And just over half thought option 1, 2, or 3 was their favorite, but they didn't, there was no clear winner between those 3 options. The bottom 2 charts look at what people said in the open response, like free response. And we coded those comments and looked at whether people felt positive or negative, if they expressed a preference for a certain option in their comments. And big picture, you can slice and dice the data a lot of different ways. But bottom line is a lot of mixed reaction from the public in phase one, a lot of questions about what does this mean? I want more information and so on. And so that has really helped focus what we are bringing out to the public in phase 2. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out the statement that you had about the riders really being the ones that are saying they don't want the change. I'm actually someone who uses transit that has a connection down there. It's kind of like grayed out, but I just wanted to, that's like a really important piece that the people who are riding transit are concerned about this.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mitchell. Yes.
I don't know. Oh.
Yes, John.
Yes, actually, you know, I take the number 6 downtown, and I thought we piloted this once before where we moved it over to Hennepin. And so, you know, the intent obviously was to, at that time, was remodeling Nicollet Mall for a while there. And so for a while, I was getting off on Nicollet right in front of my office. Now moving over to, they plan to move over to, or actually did move over to Hennepin. And so they've already done some things to open up the mall. And I don't know if that's temporary or not, but there is some questions from a lot of the folks I see downtown there is that moving it or just over to Hennepin is a ways to go back and forth, and especially people who are limited in their abilities. You know, you're not now dropping them off there, and 6 comes back and forth quite a bit there. So I prefer it on Nicollet Mall, but I understand the intent there. And I don't know, many have been to Denver. They have a similar kind of parkway, if you will, or people way that it runs down the middle of it, and they have a light rail in the middle there, more of a trolley type thing. But the intent, and by the way, it was spoken of this morning. I attended the mayor's breakfast for Mayor Carter and Mayor Fry talked about it, and Mayor Fry brought this up about opening up Nicollet Mall and making it all pedestrian. And so moving everybody off of Nicollet Mall and I'm doing the, you know, pop-up events and things like that. So just saying, I've been, I would vote if not to move it, but it wouldn't kill me if I had to. I think I get pretty good service.
Thank you, Councilmember. I saw another hand as well.
Mitchell had his hand.
That was an accident. I was trying to do a reaction.
Oh, and yeah, there, you know, to your point, certainly, when Nicollet was being reconstructed, a lot of buses moved over to Hennepin, and we'll talk about Hennepin here too. Yes, please go ahead, Tyrone.
The number one most walkable city in the United States is New York, believe it or not. And but one of the top fives is Philadelphia, where I grew up at. And it is going to add a lot because with a lot of offices closing downtown and those things happen, we have a shift, a societal shift. And I like that we're looking ahead and trying to meet that. So, of course, everything is fraught with problems that's new, but it's also new opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think definitely, even just from the comments, right, there's a lot of mixed reaction to it. So this is very in line with what we've been hearing, both a lot of excitement, and I'll go through the top themes. I won't read all of them directly, but from the, you know, about 1,000 comments that we coded, distance to destinations being a primary concern. A lot of people want to get to Nicollet Mall or destinations there, and so moving away from that causes some challenges. There was excitement for a pedestrian first street, a pedestrian only Nicollet Mall. On the same hand, people really like the way Nicollet Mall functions today. It's familiar, it's convenient, they know where to get their bus, it brings them to where they want to go. So that was a top theme as well. If we scroll down to the next slide, please. Another one is the acknowledgement that those 12,000 people or near 12,000 people getting on and off the bus every day really help with vibrancy on Nicollet Mall. There was a concern raised by a lot of people, however, about the presence of negative activity and wanting to address that. Regardless, like, don't focus on the transit, focus on the negative activity and put resources there. There was a concern raised with that the 3 different corridors being looked at didn't have as much service and retail as Nicollet Mall, and so that would be you know, a downgrade in terms of those elements. Next slide, please. There was the thought to, or the kind of common thought, that Nicollet Mall does need more retail activity. There's a lot of vacancies right now, and so that is an important part of the vibrancy that people want to see on Nicollet Mall. There was general excitement around transit improvement options downtown and focusing on that as being an important thing to focus on. And lastly, just like a real call to improve safety in general downtown, as well as on Nicollet Mall, on transit, at the transit stops, and that was really something people commented on a lot. So that ends summarizing what we heard, and just to share a bit about the 3 transit options, if we go to the next slide, please. There are 3 options. 2 of them use Marquette and Second Avenues, which have transit on them today, and the third uses Third Avenue, which doesn't. And we'll give a slide about each one of those here in a second. So of the 5 routes that currently operate on Nicollet, 2 of them, the 11 and the 25, which carry about 20% of Nicollet Mall passengers, would plan to move over to Hennepin Avenue. And so the focus of this effort, and in terms of what we are engaging on to that question also, is where the routes 10, 17, and 18 would move to. Those are notably the future F line and a future Nicollet BRT. So really important for that BRT service as well. Next slide, please. This is a map showing the current bus service downtown and all the 10, 11, 17, 18, and 25 on Nicollet. We have 33 express routes and the orange line operating on Marquette and Second Avenues, southbound on Marquette, northbound on Second Avenue, both in a double transit lane for that stretch. Next slide, please. These are maps of where the 3 options would be, or how the transit would be dispersed through downtown under the 3 options. And so there are of course, there are other routes downtown, but these are looking at the routes that would be impacted by this change. So you can see in all of them, the orange 11 and the blue 25 move over to Hennepin, and then it's where those other lines go to. So I will share, we have one slide about each, and I'll just talk to the changes and the differences at those. Next slide, please. So option 1 is looking at Marquette and Second Avenues in a lot of ways as it exists today. There are some key differences, however. So there are 2 transit-only lanes today. It would be painting them red and adding BRT stops for the F line and future Nicollet BRT, and consolidating the express service behind the curb where these black Metro Transit symbols are. We would plan to add a station on 7th and 8th Streets to help with that transfer and minimizing the walk in between BRT stations. And also compared to the other options, the walk to the light rail remains longer than other options because there's a current light rail stop between Nicollet and Marquette, and then there's another one at 3rd. Next slide, please. So the second option is using both Marquette and Second Avenues again, but changing the way they operate. So having a north and a southbound transit only lane on both of those corridors and a north and a south general purpose transit lane. It would consolidate the local and BRT service on Marquette and retain all the express service on Second Avenue. This would result in parking removal on Marquette and a large reduction on Second, major curb work on Marquette. On Second Avenue, express service would likely be slower than today, given the fact that they're moving from a double transit lane situation into a one transit lane situation in each direction. And there would be smaller or narrower shelters on the west side of Second Avenue on that side of the street that was not originally built for transit. And then finally, the third option, next slide, please, is using 3rd Avenue and repurposing 2 general purpose lanes to to transit only in each direction, maintaining 1 through lane and left turn lanes as well. It would take the existing on-street painted bike lane with those white bollards and put that behind the curb in a 2-way bikeway on the east side of the street. This would result in the loss of most parking bays. We would need to secure right-of-way easements for that total envelope of a design. There'd be limited boulevard space, and compared to the other options, a longer walk to most of the common destinations for Nicollet Mall riders. And in all 3 of these really, concerns around the kind of environment of the pedestrian urban core compared to Nicollet Mall. So next slide, please. In terms of local transit impacts, all 3 of those options are roughly anticipated to be 40% faster than the transit travel time. So this is not total trip time. This is when you're on the bus from 12th to Washington. Right now on Nicollet Mall, it takes about 10 minutes, and it would be approximately 6 minutes. In addition, these travel times are expected to be more consistent and reliable. One of the key reasons here is that on Nicollet Mall today, when you have to, if there's a bus stopping, taking a little bit longer, loading or unloading a passenger, all the buses behind it are waiting. And then any of those other options, there's an ability for a bus to pull out into, at minimum, general purpose traffic and pass that bus. Also, a little bit to the earlier comment on how we've tried this before, transit service is regularly detoured off Nicollet Mall right now due to different activities, festivals, events, and what have you. So that would, that's confusing for riders, right? And so that would go away largely and result in a more consistent experience for riders. Next slide, please. In terms of express transit impacts, it's different in the different scenarios. In option 1, there's the consolidation of those express stops, but it operates pretty similarly. Option 2, the express service, like we said, is likely to be a little bit slower. It's consolidated, so it's a little maybe more legible in terms of it's always on Second Avenue, and that the west side would have narrower sidewalks than the current west side on Marquette. And under option 3, everything is the same as today. It's not really touched. Next slide, please. To go a little, just share where we've been recently. We did a number of different outreach in December, including the holidazzle. And yeah, Anita, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little late. I was thinking of the traffic on was the Second Avenue South? How will that affect people in heavy traffic from the convention center? People who are going west to get to 94 and 394.
So right now, the traffic volumes on Second aren't very, they're not super high. So under this scenario, it's anticipated on option 2 where you're inserting two-way traffic on Second and Marquette. It wouldn't have a huge impact in terms of disruption in terms of traffic flow. Now, if you're talking about a particular, this is something we've heard too, these different options operating under like different events, right? Something at US Bank Stadium or something like that. I mean, downtown will have traffic sometimes, right? And so there will be, we are under option 3, we'd be reducing general purpose traffic lanes. Under options 1 and 2, it's just kind of a reallocation of where they are, but it's not reducing those travel lanes for general purpose traffic.
Okay, because I'm just remembering that when I worked downtown, for example, I worked on 12th and across from the convention center that used to be Hennepin County Building, Century Plaza. And when I worked there and going west, for example, to get home 94, if there was something going on at the Target Center, if there was something going on, at the football field and something going on downtown, it would take a considerable amount of time just to get on the 2 lanes going west. And so, and that was summertime. And so I'm just thinking of days like that, how that would flow if it was single lane, and then you've got buses in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, not a traffic modeling answer or expert here, but I mean, big picture, you'd still have those 2 lanes of traffic. They would just be on 2 different streets in option 2, right? As opposed to on 1. So, and just also noting here that the question came in about how much money is being allocated to this. So some of this is about, where is future investment anyway going to go, right? So some of Metro Transit is building out a BRT system. Where is that BRT system being built out? We are, so I don't have an exact answer for how much it is right now. We're working through that. And some of it also is about making improvements related to like any corridor that would get chosen. We'd want to have ADA accessible ramps along that corridor, right? And making these investments that help people get around, no matter how they're getting around. So that is also part of why there would be investment in a transit corridor under any of these scenarios. Yes, Lila.
Thank you, Chair, Co-Chair, committee members, presenters. I just wanted to remind the committee that this is still a public meeting and the public is unable to see comments in the chat. And so if someone has a question, please raise your hand and the co-chairs will call on you and you'll have the opportunity to ask your question at that time. Thank you.
Thanks. Next slide, please. And does the co-chair want to call on them or should I call on Mitchell?
Okay, that's yeah. Okay.
Councilmember Pacheco and Vanessa, it's Mitchell
that.
had his hand up.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, just so the public can hear it, I actually want to also say this too, how much taxpayer money is being allocated. We are facing a crisis where people are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make ends meet. People have utility bills, special assessments. North Minneapolis, there's over $3 million in debt over just utilities. And I think ultimately the tax burden has been placed on residences, on single family residences because of downtown, naturally what's happened across the country. But I think when thinking of this, stakeholders really are people like us too, who are carrying this burden and getting super high tax levies, and people can't afford. In Harrison, people can't afford it anymore. And in St. Paul and other, and all over, people just can't afford it. So I think when you're talking to people downtown about downtown, when we've been the one really having to take the burden on. I just feel like, I don't understand how this is for anybody but downtown. It seems very downtown centric, downtown council. And I just while I have it for, I think when you talk about like undesirable behavior and stuff, I do want to just say the downtown 100, when youth and Black youth and people were targeted for low level offenses and removed, that's not eliminating homelessness. That's just relocating people. And I have to stand up as like an at-large member and just say that, because it was a terrible thing. And I think it's been celebrated by downtown, but it was horrible. Like you have kids on camera, and you're saying, you know what? And I don't know where they went, if it was a Vivo, indoor villages or whatever. I'm nothing that's bad to say about them, but I don't know where these people went. And when I was working at St. Stephen's, we didn't know how people were getting to indoor villages. So I'm just wondering, like, desirability and like livability and lifestyle offenses, like having to pee, public intoxication, which is promoting, but if you're unhoused, apparently it's a crime. I just think a lot of these issues are first and forefront because a lot of people have been harmed. So a restorative model, actually like a racial equity model, I feel like should have been first. What harms have been caused? What can we do? Like a restored, actually going through that before just sprinting ahead. And I know I'm rambling now, but like I need to call that out because it was a really awful thing to do to people. And I just want to know how that's going to not happen here, because it sounds like it's being set up to do the same thing.
Thanks, Mitchell, for the
Thank you
comment.
for that.
Oh, sorry. Was somebody else speaking? I didn't mean to cut somebody off.
I was
Okay.
just giving Mitchell love because his response and comment was needed and is appreciated, and he's very right with everything that he said. I'm glad that it's on the record.
Thanks, yeah, for those comments, and definitely acknowledge that this is, there's a lot of different elements of this work and a lot of thoughts about what it means and what it's being driven by. And, our goal here is really to focus in and say, how can we make this work? If when transit moves off the mall, how do we make it work for people riding transit and make sure that that we are getting a good option there? So that's really where we're trying to focus this work on. But I appreciate your comments, and I see another hand up as well. Please, Carmian.
I believe there was someone before me. I don't want to jump the gun here. No? Okay. I wonder with the open houses, if there's any possibility of holding open houses outside of the heart of downtown. Downtown tends to be like a thoroughfare. There's not necessarily a ton of folks that live in downtown proper. And so even if you only go as far as like near north, it could be really helpful to get community members engaged if they don't necessarily have to leave their community to engage. Just a thought.
It's a good thought, and we have tried to structure how we're interacting and kind of getting those surrounding neighborhoods and going out to their different meetings, and also like reaching transit riders. So we have had staff from both Metro Transit and the city go out basically every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of January, like all the weeks in January, and connect with transit riders, which absolutely are not all from downtown, right? People are riding the bus from lots of places and converging downtown and riding through or getting off. So we've tried to be able to, reach a lot of different people, a lot of different people from a lot of different places. And we're also, as part of our survey, asking folks their zip code and stuff. So we're able to kind of see where those responses are coming from. I don't have that info yet. The survey is currently active. It's a different survey than the fall. But definitely appreciate that there's a lot of people who this impacts and, who this is important to.
And Kathleen, I might just add on top of that, earlier today, we recorded a virtual open house, and that'll be available on for folks to see that material as well and review. And Metro Transit has had success with using that tool, where we have a recording available for folks who can't join in person, or like tonight, it just doesn't quite work out. And so then having that available online for future reference and for folks to see is a really helpful tool as well.
Thanks for that. Yes, please, Tori.
Hi, I'm Tori Hampton. I work at the council as an equity officer here. I just had a question regarding equity on this project. Where do you see equity being fit within this project? What is the equity initiative? What is the EJ assessment? What is it really that you're presenting to the EAC as far as equity base, other than just the layout of the project?
Thanks for the question. I don't know, Kyle, if you have anything specific to say. I will say, Julie Martinez asked us to come present this project. So we're responding to that request. I think that it's from demographics of who's riding transit, knowing that transit is a critical service for a lot of people, that transit and the ability to get around with ease and comfort, and not not having your transit commute be way longer than other alternatives is an important piece of this. And so those are, I think, some of the thoughts around that. Kyle, would you like to add anything here?
Kathleen, yeah, I think, this being an important project in downtown and having a big impact on downtown transit, we wanted to make sure that this group was able to see this material and advise on this material, and in particular look at the three options and kind of have awareness of that, and make sure to be able to provide us feedback, as well as we're having conversations in the community and getting public feedback on the three options that have been developed, and are interested in the feedback from in this conversation here as well.
I don't know if I'll use my little hand here, but yeah, I think, from my perspective, and my office is right on 9th and Nicollet. They're right across from Target there, and so I overlook the mall, and I take that bus. Now they moved us over to Hennepin. It looks like only a couple blocks, but it's about 3 solid blocks there, and it comes down in the V. But I would tell you that. I appreciate the work that you all are doing. I mean, if you look at downtown Minneapolis, it's actually a big residential hub. There's over 60,000 residents downtown. It also has a number of the workers downtown. And what I see is that, I don't know how much you've done in other languages, but I see a lot of folks who are in these buildings downtown, working in these buildings and working with folks that aren't aware of it until they stand on the corner and they say, "No, your bus stop just moved over there." And I went through it myself. And so I was I was in a hurry, and I said, where did it go? And I should know these things. But it's also where a number of the shelters are. It's also the entertainment district. I mean, so it's feeding in a lot of that's going on. The security in the downtown means more people, is what it means. More eyes on the street and more interaction here. The potential even of the small business on Nicollet, that are retail. I mean, there was a push for a while there to move off of the skyways. They said that was a mistake because now you don't have the street level interactions that you have in some other cities there. So there's a lot to be considered. I think that, it is just a microcosm of a big city, but a little smaller. But I mean, the meeting of the mayors this morning, they talked about what's potential with the post office downtown Minneapolis. That may be moving out. You don't need the big trucks in and out of downtown, and now you have open up all that property along the river there. So there's a lot going on. There's talking about redoing the Target Center and how do you do that, and along with the transportation. So I'm encouraged by what you're doing, but I think it will take a little bit of everybody, and not everyone's going to be happy. But I think the goal is really to make a safe opportunity for people to get to work and back, and get to entertainment back, and enjoy downtown as well. The workers there need the support, and so I appreciate what you're the way you're going in.
Chair and co-chair, we do have a couple of hands up. I saw Mercedes' hand go up and then go down, and then I saw Anita's hand go up and then Mercedes' hand go back up. So, Mercedes, do you mind if Anita, do you
Oh,
mind if
yeah, go
Mercedes
ahead.
goes first, or
No,
Mercedes?
Mercedes can go
Okay.
first.
Okay, we'll let Councilmember Pacheco go ahead and
Decide.
See, I told you that before. Is I don't know how to call on people. I feel like I'm in school. But
yeah, it call on people the way we are in person. This is the first time we're online to our presenters, and so we're working out some of the new things that we're going through here. So go ahead and call on folks the way you would in a regular meeting.
All right. Well, I know the order, so I'll go with Mercedes there as the next person raising a question. Mercedes.
You mentioned, not you, John, but the people presenting, you guys mentioned being asked to come here. That makes me feel like we're being used as tokens to be checked off for equity work. And I just want to make the statement that the current issues surrounding safety and homelessness and addiction play a significant role in why people are avoiding public transportation. Introducing new developments alone will not address these underlying problems. So I just want to encourage you guys to pay more attention to the safety, as John had mentioned, to really create the change you want to see. Like, avoiding the initial problem is not going to make anything better with new developments, because the same problem is still going to be there.
Thank you, and I apologize that came off as dismissive or tokenizing. That's not my intention. I thought part of the question was like, why did we come, right? So I apologize that that's the way that came off. I was just sharing a piece of how we got to here.
Okay, Anita, I think your hand was up.
Yeah, I'm going to expand on what Tori asked and what our co-chair asked, and what I initially asked about community outreach and engagement. So as part of an advisory committee member, I'm going to advise that I'm looking at this January engagement, and I see no communities that serve African American, Asian American, Latinos, Somali, African, um, and a lot of the non-English speaking communities who, like John mentioned, where do I catch the bus? What's going on? How do I find that information? The places that you have in your neighborhood organizations are primarily downtown, and some of those non-English speakers will be there. But there's a lot of staff, and I worked at Hennepin County, and that's what I did was outreach and engagement. And I included communities of color and non-English speaking communities and at-risk communities specifically because those are the communities that don't use mainstream media. And it's really nice that you have this on your website, but I'm going to tell you, unless I want something specific, I'm not going to go to your website. I'm going to go ask somebody who I know is active in community services in my community and say, do you know what's happening? What's going on? Or they're going to give me that information because that's what they do. So my advice is at this part, look at how you're doing your community outreach and engagement and really do engagement, not just outreach, but engagement. And that part of engagement means is that you let people have a conversation about what really works for them. Data is good, but there's also that data that is non-quantitative, that qualitative data that gives you that real information of how am I going to be impacted if I'm taking a bus from North Minneapolis and catching it on Nicollet Mall to go to work, and how is that impacting me? And that goes back to what Mitchell was saying. We have to consider all the people in Minneapolis. You have almost 12,000 riders. How are they all impacted? And do they all have some input? where they all actively engaged in this conversation. And I've worked with the city of Minneapolis as the chair of the Commission on Civil Rights for years. I worked at Hennepin County for 35 years. I know how the system is. Decisions are made. And then when the community is advised or engaged, basically what it is here's what's happening. And now I'm letting you know. And then if you have some information to give me, you can give it to me, but then it goes into a black hole. That's how we ended up with HERC in North Minneapolis. That's how we ended up with Highway 94 through our communities. That's how we end up with a lot of things in North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, Minneapolis on the whole. And so look at how you're going to explain and really how you're going to do engagement. You have a lot of employees at the city who do speak other languages. Get their input, get their assistance. Ask them how they could go about helping you engage the communities and engage those communities of color and non-English speaking communities. That's it.
Okay, I have Mitchell, I think. Who was next?
Thank you so much for that
Nope.
wisdom.
Well,
Really
you go
appreciate
ahead.
it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, Miss Davis. And I mean, I actually have read all the pages for all the plans, which is quite a bit. And you know, the downtown council plan is very similar to the Minneapolis Foundation. This kind of like points to like a broader issue of nonprofits are reliant on these organizations, Minneapolis Foundation, and it's difficult to speak your truth when you know this is the case, but you also have to. You know, and you know, the Minneapolis Foundation just, you know, there's great things, and I respect them a lot. Also, part of this whole ordeal is that we have to be able to be honest about things. And if in the Minneapolis Foundation's action plan, it states that the plan is to go to neighborhood spaces, events, and leaders wherever they are, sit on porches and park and rec centers, libraries, coffee shops, and barbershops. So that doesn't sound a lot like what's going on. And I know that all these are different plans, but the Minneapolis Foundation and the Downtown Council are very similar. They basically mirror each other. So it just, if this is the plan, I mean, going to barbershops and stuff, you also have to think like it's be a little weird going to a barbershop and being like, hey guys, you want to talk about Nicolette? I think it's good. But if you don't have people that are from that community that know these people, it's more of the same to them. You know, they're like, all right, here we go again. And it's like you really, if you don't have people from there, no, it's going to be difficult for you, you know. And I think with rec centers and youth, I don't see anything that promotes youth down there. And I know skateboarding has been promoted a lot, but there's also $4 million that's been funneled from the legislature for that. So I just want to point out that's what it states. And I see all these different plans, and I'm just, you know, over time, and I'm just wondering, like, which one are you primarily going off of? Who are the stakeholders to you? I guess like the main stakeholders here, because right now it just seems the main stakeholders are wealthy downtown condo owners and basically people that don't want us there. That's the way it feels. I'm just being honest.
Appreciate all the comments that this committee is giving. I don't know if that was like a question you wanted me to answer, Mitchell, about the stakeholders, right? I mean,
Yeah. If you could, like, who are the main stakeholders to y'all in this situation? Like, who are you really like, you know, just your short list of stakeholders?
Sure, I'd say principally like, and I'm talking now about premise, right? Transit is moving from the mall. So not, I understand a lot of people want to talk about the decision about is transit moving or what, how did that decision get made? The project that we're like trying to get feedback on and make, you know, is how can we make transit work for transit riders? So principally, I would say the number one stakeholders are those 12,000 people that are using the buses on Nicollet Mall today, getting on and off the bus. That's the I mean, so that's a lot of people, right? And they are many things. They're not just a transit rider, right? Some of them overlap or totally not outside of some of the other stakeholders you mentioned. But that is yeah, that is, I'd say that is the highest stakeholder that we're working with. And that, you know, there are people, you know, obviously you can see through our list of different engagement events that we do have planned here, how we also are connecting with other folks that represent different interests as well, and connecting with folks across different avenues. Kyle, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll just say, you know, so Metro Transit has been obviously involved in and helping to support this engagement effort. And I would say, you know, not these are, you know, events that are listed here, and I will just kind of reemphasize some of the tools that Metro Transit has been using and helping with the city to utilize some of that direct outreach and engagement to riders, right? So utilizing excuse me, the email lists that Metro Transit has for rider alerts, our Connect newsletter. So the ways that Metro Transit communicates regularly with our riders are the avenues that we've used to try to reach out to folks and make sure that folks are aware of that this is happening and able to provide their feedback on the 3 options that we've developed. So all of the bus stops on Nicollet Mall and on the cross streets are posted with rider alerts in multiple languages, so folks can kind of see and become aware of this, meeting folks where they are. As Kathleen mentioned, City of Minneapolis and Metro Transit staff have been out riding buses up and down Nicollet Mall and meeting folks on Marquette and 2nd. And at bus stops along the corridor here as well, getting out and meeting folks and connecting with them on this material. And so we have been involved in the effort to make people aware of and to get feedback on the 3 options that are being considered, and certainly making sure that that's a key part of that our riders' input is a key part of decisions being made and which of these 3 options is ultimately selected and sort of what they ultimately look like going forward.
I appreciate that. Just because it seems like the bus riders with the comment above were saying they didn't want it. So I just wanted to really just kind of like state that again. But thank you for your response. I appreciate you. And I appreciate, you being here and fielding these questions as well. Very much so.
But this is actually a good opportunity. This is probably the best crowd or best members that we've had participation rate than we've had in some time. So we re-listened. We had folks present. We've asked some questions. What would you want us to do at this point? Is it a comment on your process? Is it comment on the actual routes that you have before you? And from our standpoint, is there a statement that we want to make coming from this meeting? And so there's an action item here that it's not just one and done where I listened and I won't be back now for a while until we're breaking ground or something. So I'm asking this as a question. What would you like to see the body do? And then internally, what do you think we should do? So you can go first here.
Sure, Councilmember, I'll answer that, and certainly Kathleen can jump on. So we wanted to make sure that this body had this information, right? And to certainly help spread the word through your networks about this effort, make sure that you were up to date on what was happening here, and to be able for us to provide and to be able to provide information on it, as well as receive feedback kind of in this discussion on this meeting. So certainly we've appreciated the conversation we've had so far, and we're looking at, and we've been taking notes on this feedback here as well. And your help on spreading the word throughout your networks, I think, will be really important. That's been sort of a standing ask, and all of the advisory committees we've gone to a couple of the City of Minneapolis advisory committees here as well. So helping us spread the word about this opportunity would be really appreciated. This is an information item, so we don't have sort of an action item or a business item proposed for this group. But the feedback we've received tonight has certainly been valuable, and I'll defer to this group too on other actions that the body would want to take itself.
So it's safe to say this was an informed part of the process?
I would, in terms of informing about the opportunity and that the project, so providing some background on the project, as well as getting out in front of this group with the 3 options that are on the table. That is certainly an informed element of this, but we really are seeking feedback on the 3 options, and which and rider preferences that come through the outreach and engagement process are going to be an important part of the decision-making process that that the city and Metro Transit and the council have.
Lila?
Chair, co-chair, yes, chair, co-chair, committee members. There are a few more slides left. I'll have presenters confirm, I think about 3 or 4 slides I saw left. And I just want to give you all an opportunity to get through your slides, and the committee an opportunity to see what else is remaining. Do you want to continue to complete the presentation?
Sure, I can just
okay.
quickly go through. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I think it's still valuable to get through the whole presentation. I know that there are a couple of other people who had their hands raised as well. I don't see them anymore. Maybe they'll raise their hands again once the presentation is completed.
Thank you. Here, just sharing again, we know that there's a lot of interest in what's happening on Nicollet Mall and what people can anticipate and what, again, mixed reactions. Some people really excited, some people wary of what's happening. There are different efforts that we just are, we are also getting feedback from people on about what they think about that, right? And so that has been a part of our engagement. And if you can just scroll to the next one, please. So summarizing where we're at again in the process, we've got a lot of different events happening this month, looking at a hopeful decision on a preferred corridor or corridors in the spring, another more engagement in the April timeframe, and then we'd be looking at the earliest implementation of removing buses from the mall in 2026. And the next slide, please. So there's a mailing list, there's a survey that we've chatted about, there's our website that has the material, including the open house virtual that we did earlier today that shares more technical trade-offs and walks through a lot of those in more details. And so we're hoping to hear, from folks through these avenues. And then I think there's just one last slide of contact info, I believe. Oh, sorry, the info on the open houses and contact info. So happy to continue the conversation. Thank you for letting us get through those last couple slides. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
That's great. I have a quick comment, and that is when you showed the picture in the last slide, and maybe even the one before there, you see a booth like your Public Works there, and and that's not just us or this project, but so often there isn't the one a booth with other languages. And that's something that's kind of entertaining that people can go by and stuff, but they really have to produce something. And I think we should be cognizant of that on all of our major projects and any projects actually. But I can see people up and down the mall, and they are reflective of the greater community. And so having the information there and letting them know early on what could look like, even if they have possibilities of looking at businesses along the route and looking at how they can be impactful. But anyway, that's what I would add. Is there other comments for our presenters? Seeing none, we'll move on with the agenda. But again, thank you for coming before us today.
I think we have one hand raised.
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Vanessa,
I
your
have
hand
Hand is up.
There we
Oh,
go.
okay. Mercedes and
That's a
Vanessa.
real hand, though. It wasn't that little yellow one.
Oh, and some
We have
hand
a
is up
few
as well.
hands up.
Yeah, and Mitchell. So
Uh,
I think we
So
should go
this is
Vanessa
Vanessa.
first, or Mercedes, then Vanessa, then Samira, then Mitchell.
Oh, I just hope you guys take what we say into consideration. Each of us have experience and relations to these communities that you guys are proposing ideas and new developments for. So the information we give you is very valuable and real. And it's also informative because we are community members from these communities. So it's not like we're just a person in a meeting, but we have actual ties and relationships, and we see and know what is happening there. So our voice is very powerful. So if you want to do the right thing into making real change that people are happy about, that can make a real difference in the community and the world, then I just hope that you guys do take what we're saying into consideration.
And what was that lineup
Thank
again?
you.
Vanessa's
Thank you.
next.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I just have a quick question for the presenter. So obviously, it seems like there's going to be some change. One of these three projects will be implemented. My question is, in light of kind of the feedback from the community, are you guys prepared at any point just to back out of the project altogether and say, no, we're not going to implement any changes at this time?
Thanks for the question. I don't feel like I'm not in a position to answer that, which I get is maybe a frustrating answer. And so apologies for that. The project we're working on now is trying to get feedback on this, and we are very much, sharing what we're hearing, sharing internally with city folks, with folks that are more involved on the Nicollet Mall side of things, in all the different arrays that it's coming in. We are hearing, from folks, I was on the bus talking to people, and you hear from bus riders, some are excited, some aren't, right? Like there's really mixed reactions. And so we're trying to share that back with the public too, and with different people working on different parts of this project, in terms of that there is skepticism from some, that there are, people who aren't happy to see transit move. And so right now, the plan is to move forward with one of these three options.
Okay, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Samira.
Who's next?
Yeah, hi. Samir Isa. I just had a very brief comment. I kind of wanted to re-emphasize what was mentioned earlier, specifically about how you reach these communities. I know I kind of mentioned something similar at a previous meeting. So I would say Facebook specifically, just to give an actual specific idea, right? I think Facebook is very underutilized when it comes to these kinds of proposals or ideas, and I understand that typically it's not something that the government and whatnot would think to use to announce these things. Like you were mentioning earlier, it's typically just on a website and stuff like that. But people are not going to see that. So I would say specifically Facebook is a great tool. You have many communities of, minority communities that very much so use Facebook, or even just word of mouth, and they just have no idea. So it's like kind of when you're taking these surveys and you're asking people what they think about these ideas, it can be skewed because the people who end up taking those surveys aren't really a representation of necessarily everyone. There's a whole group or groups of people who may have differing views or may not, but we would never know that because they're not going to click a link somewhere on a website or an email and just take a survey that way. So I think even something like a Facebook poll or asking people on Facebook is just one idea that could work.
Thanks for the specificity of suggestion. We have done some social media, trying to direct people toward the survey and whatnot, and have had some success there. I don't have the stats in terms of how many people we've reached through that, but we haven't done a poll, for example. So appreciate that.
All right, if
And
no
we
one
have
else,
one more comment.
One
Mitchell,
more?
you can wrap it up for us.
Sorry.
30
well, we have
seconds.
another presentation, but
Sorry.
let's go. Yep.
I just want to pull directly from these plans. It calls for market rate housing. I feel like artist laws, it talks about not really wanting or not really having families be a part of this process, which to me is upsetting because as a supportive housing case manager at St. Stephen's, knowing that they're not being included in this and it's targeted towards wealthy. It says more people from the middle and high ends of the income spectrum want to live downtown. It's a good thing. That means more patrons for local businesses, more lively streets, and a broader tax base. That's the thing right there. We have the largest debt in the entire country right now, or like the largest amount of debt for our downtown. I feel like this doesn't, just be honest, I feel like this has less to do with transit and more to do with that. The motive, I guess the motive to me is confusing as a rider. If you're going to say, I'm going to make it harder for you just on a daily basis, I'm going to be like, nah, like, I don't really want that. I get off the bus and I go to my other bus. There's a lot of transfers there. There's a ton of transfers there. So that's what I do. I don't get off the bus and kind of like wander around Nicolette Mall. And if it's different, I mean, that's not gonna, I'm not gonna go there, so I don't consider myself even, I'm a stakeholder. But like I said, I mean, it's this plan calls for high income, wealthy individuals coming to broaden the tax base, which would be good for, single family resident homeowners because we won't have to pay so much. But I feel like just being honest about these plans, they directly spell it out for us. It says, this is why we're doing it. This is who we want. They're talking about 24/7, what, I don't know, like some sort of like activated sidewalk and like jugglers. I was like, I don't, I got a little lost there. I just want to say though, I mean, just both of these plans call for wealthy individuals moving downtown to broaden the tax base. And I feel like that's what this is about. And I'm just being honest about it. And I feel like, yeah, I just feel like that needs to be talked about a little bit more. Thank you for your time. Sorry, I talked like 13 times. My apologies for
It's
keeping
okay.
everyone.
I do want to make one suggestion, council member. You can always comment still and make comments. The comment area is still open for surveying. And you can go to some engagement events if you would like. I know it's a little chilly. But the good thing about it is that the project is not over with and there's still time for comment. So
Yeah.
I think that's the good thing about this project, even though those, you might not feel like it's action items that's being taken down. You have the leaders of the project here, and I'm pretty sure some of those things are hitting home for them, so.
Yeah, I just really want to thank everyone for your comments and sharing with us. Really appreciate, this was a longer agenda item than I think you thought that we had talked about, and so appreciate the time that you all spent talking with us about it, and do hope that we continue the conversation, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, is this I'm assuming this is our next presentation, but
So it's not more of a presentation, it's more of a handout. We were gonna
Okay.
be in person at first, but don't worry, I got engagement skills, so I turned it into a mentee so that you guys can still be involved in this process and so that we can still get some good feedback today. I'm Tori Hampton. I am in the OEO Equity and Implementation Unit. I work under Lila, and today I'm going to be presenting just a little bit about our yearly outline, and this is a draft. I wanted to make sure that you guys seen that. Your impact is important here in this space. Last year we kind of did things a little different where we focused heavily on the regional development guide, just because of all of the nuances that are involved in the guide. And Lila, when does the guide drop? Do we have a date?
I don't have the exact date. I believe it's March.
So it's coming up.
Yep.
So I do, we will be sharing that out when it does go out so that you guys can see it and, review it and read it and, come back with some comments and things that we can take directly to the authors of the document. So that's coming up in March. But today what we're going to be focusing on is just these couple items here. So discuss the process to select a new co-chair. Discuss recruitment for new EAC members, online meeting transition. We're kind of already there when it comes to online meeting transition, which is very good. Downloading Teams meeting app. We were going to do that, make sure everybody had it on their phone, but it seems like you guys got that fine. We're going to discuss the yearly plan, and we're going to have a discussion for 22 wrap up and just talk about building trust. And then I can talk about this now. Announcing of the panel for a tree grant project. I believe I reached out to people. I only got one person, which is Edward. Do I have anybody else that would like to participate at this moment on the panel for the tree grant project before they move forward?
Yeah, I sent a pretty lengthy response, I thought,
Oh, okay.
to that. Yeah, I mean, I've been on actually panels before, specifically for tree grant programs, and it's kind of I'm actually a certified tree inspector now, as of December, and have a lot of experience in this area. But yeah, I sent a
So you
decent
are
size email.
on, right? Yes.
Yeah,
Long
yeah. I
paragraph
mean,
mean yes.
yes. Yeah. I mean, I just
Okay.
have to say yes. I mean, yeah. I.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're just not commenting, but you're actually saying yes. So we
Yeah.
have Mitchell and we have Edward. Perfect. We got the men stepping up. I like that. Okay. So let's go. So we gotta go to the next one. We're gonna discuss the process to select the new co-chair. So in the past, what we have done was we had everybody who wanted to become a co-chair put in their submission to say like why they would like to become the co-chair. So you just email me and Lila to say why you would like to become the co-chair, and then you will actually present why you would like to become a co-chair at an actual EAC meeting, and then at the end of that meeting, the committee will vote on who that new co-chair is. Is that correct, Lila? Back me up here. Is that the correct process?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So tell us, let us know if you'd like to be co-chair. So I mean, the background to this is Vanessa's seat is up. I don't know if Vanessa has communicated whether or not she would like to continue, but it is an open, it's open at this point. And so anyone who wants to be a co-chair, let us know. And then you'll have the opportunity to share in a future meeting why folks should vote for you. And then the committee members, your co-committee folks will vote on who becomes the new co-chair. So yes, correct.
Exactly.
Everything you said.
Perfect. So I'll send out an email just requesting if you would like to become a co-chair. Tomorrow I'll send that email out to you guys so that we can go ahead and get the process started and we can move from there. And then next subject, do we have any questions about the co-chair? Maybe what the co-chair does, the roles and responsibilities. I can also send that in the email as well. No questions? Moving on. Perfect. So next is discussing recruitment for new EAC members. So if you have anybody in your network, we're going to be starting recruitment, I believe, in about next week. We're going to be doing some social media posting like we did last time. We're going to be doing direct community outreach to community centers. We have a list. If you do have any centers that you may want us to reach out to, please email them to us. We do have a list of community centers. If you would like me to share that detailed list, I can check with communications to see like what's the stipulation on that and share community organizations information. So just let me know if you guys would like that list to be shared to see who we do contact and reach out to. But it's your normal organizations, a lot of community organizations that's in the area, the Economic Center, the Urban League, just all of these different organizations that we send out this post to let them know that we are recruiting for Equity Advisory Committee members. So any community member centers in your district, faith-based organization, whoever you would like us to contact, just make sure that you send us those contacts so that we can add them to that list. So those just are a couple of our recruitment mechanisms. Of course, there'll be a posting on our EAC website to let people know that recruitment is open and we will be recruiting. I believe the recruitment process is about 30 days or something like that. So it's not a super long window. But that's also something that we'll be discussing as the process goes on. So that's that. We already did the online meeting transitions. How are we liking it? Can I just get a survey right fast from members? Are we liking this? This is good, right? Other than the meal, we don't get that good old meal. Sometimes it's a miss, but sometimes it's really good though, right? So
Tori?
yes.
Tori, yes, along with recruitment that you have here, our membership, we have 2 seats on the council, on the Met Council that are vacant, and the governor just put a notice out last week with the process, and they're Councilmember Dokar and Councilmember Vento. And so those 2, as I just received the notice last week as well, but that's something, so if someone was looking to be a council member, pay attention to the dates and times, and they usually do a pretty good job of giving you time to make a presentation or to be interviewed. I don't know if that's all been set up at this point, but there are 2 council seats that will be coming available.
And just one question, do they have to be from that specific district area for people that's
Yes.
applying?
Yes.
And what are those districts, if you know them on hand?
No, I do not.
Don't worry, we'll come back to it at the end. You can go
Yep.
ahead and look for it. Okay. Because I don't want somebody to go and they're like, oh, we can't even apply because the district seat is already filled. So we want to make sure that we have the right information. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and go into our yearly plan. So just a small overview. I'll go ahead and enhance this as much as possible. So of course, we already know why we're here. The Metropolitan Council has this committee to help really to advise the council on an immense full amount of projects, initiatives, and policies and regulations that come across their desk on an everyday basis. So usually how we would do it, we were trying to transition over to having all the presentations throughout the year out about each subject area each month that we may want to work on. But this year we're going to do it a little bit different. We're not going to do it the same way we did it last year. We're kind of going to do it not the same structure as 2023, but we're going to incorporate a lot of 2023 and 2024 together. So what we did in 2023 was we allowed a lot of people to come to us and present on presentations, whether it was just an item that they needed for advising, like just happened just then, an informational item, advising, but this year we really want to be aware of what we take in when it comes to advising and when it comes to actually information items. So the Nicollet Mall project actually wanted to come to you guys last month, but we canceled December. So we have to move that information to this month. So that's just a little bit about the Nicollet Mall project. I think they had more initiatives last month that closed out that month, and now they have new initiatives coming up this month. So just a little bit about that. So what we're going to be working on this year, we're going to be working on a Miss for advising on projects within Metro Transit, Metro Transportation Services, Community Development, Environmental Services, and Regional Administration. So some projects will come up on a monthly basis. People may reach out to us and they may say, hey, we have this new initiative coming up. We want to come to the EAC, but we're also reaching back on projects that happen in 2023, 2024 to ask them for updated actions when it comes to some of the things that they may be working on. So some of those projects that we're currently reaching back, and we're also listening to you guys of what you asked for from the retreat as well. I'll touch on a couple of those things. The Nicollet Mall project, we just had that. That was a Metro Transit project. But like I said, as we go on, this list will evolve and this list will update. So a couple of things from community development. We will hear more about the community tree grant project, the equity housing plan. So that's a really big one when it comes to a lot of things that a lot of people are asking about within that retreat that we had. A lot of people wanted to ask about housing. What are we doing about housing? And right now they are putting together, or they have drafted up an equity and housing plan for the Metropolitan district. So we want to go ahead and dig into that. We have been reaching out to the project manager. We're still developing information on when they can come to the committee and when it will be the most effective. But those things will be coming in the future. The environmental justice framework will be coming back this year. The climate action work plan, that's a really big one. Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Tyrone.
I wanted to say that Vento is District 12 and Dokar is District 15.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The climate action work plan It's a really big project. That's a continuous project within environmental services. It has a big equity initiative that they're working on within that plan. So we're definitely hearing back from them this year about what they're doing with that. I know a lot of people are interested in that in this committee when it comes to environmental welfare. So we're definitely going to be looking back at that climate action work plan. Workforce equity plan is something that we're working on too. Procurement, of course, always comes every year, and audit comes every year as well. So we are in audit this year. So this is our third year. We are currently being audited by the federal government. So we're working on that as well. So that auditing process will be brought in front of you guys as well, so that you can see where we are when it comes to our OEO projects and adjacent to equity within the council and grants and all of those other things that's included in that process and that plan. I also included some meeting dates here, just so that you can have them if you need them. I know some people like to put them on their calendar, and some people may have birthdays or other things that's around these dates. If you guys can send me like maybe some dates that you might be out or months that you might be out, that'll be best for me to track attendance and seeing what's excused and what's not excused. I do want to go over attendance just a little bit to let you guys know what it says here based on attendance in the bylaws. So I'll pull that up. We're gonna be really, I know sometimes it's hard to enforce things when we want to keep a committee and we want to keep the people happy, but I think this way that we're presenting and doing business will allow us to enforce a little bit more when it comes to attendance when it comes to more of an online space. So regular attendance by committee members is necessary to ensure the efficient working of the committee. Committee members are automatically removed from the committee if they miss 3 consecutive meetings unless such absences are excused. So that's a really big part of the process. Please email me if you are not going to come. I can say, hey, I don't want to pick on nobody. I'll say Tori because I don't want to call nobody out. I'll say, hey, Tori, I'm not going to be able to make it today because my car broke down. Oh, I have some stuff going on at 6 o'clock. I got a parent conference teacher meeting with my kid's teacher. And I'm like, okay, excuse. Really easy. It's just better to be that way than not to do anything else. But try to come as much as possible. We need you here, not only for quorum, but for expertise. You guys have been selected for a reason. So we really want to make sure that you guys are attending. And hopefully this new way allows you to attend more. So let's go ahead and use the last 15 minutes as much as we can. I got a couple questions here. So we really value your expertise. I'm talking too fast. Let me slow down. We value your expertise, and we really want to have a honest conversation with you guys about some things. We're working on a feedback mechanism when it comes to internal work for the council, and we're working on how those presentations should be structured before they come to y'all. So we really want to make these manuals, and we really want to make this structure. We don't want you to do the work. We want you to advise the work, but we don't want you to do the work because we know y'all don't get paid for it. So these questions are going to help us do the job. And if there's any questions that we may be missing, make sure that that is known. So I'll go ahead and share the Menti so that you guys have. So what do is you click on this link that I'm about to drop in the chat. You go to menti.com, click on the link. Questions are going to come up. They're open-ended questions. I'll share it on the screen. To join the Menti, use this code. Let me know with a thumbs up or with a hand raise that you guys are in the Menti. Thumbs up. Hand raise, thumbs up. Thank you. All right. So you guys can go ahead and answer the first question. What questions should we ask presenters before they come to the EAC? I think this is a really important one because
I'm
sometimes,
sorry. I'm sorry. I do not see the code we're supposed to use.
oh, let me put it in the chat because it's right up here at the top of the screen.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yeah, I'll put
good.
it in the chat too, though.
I
so that
see
you
it now. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's 63, 20, 16, 24.
Yes. Oh, I like that one. What is the equity lens they've used in preparing the presentation? Mm-hmm. What do we want to get from the coming to this EAC? I mean, to this equity meeting? Is there you're only in equity engagement initiative where our comments be implemented and considered? And that's a part of the feedback mechanism that we're working on and seeing how we're going to filter that feedback from the notes and the questions that's being asked. So that's a great one. What is your community engagement process? I like that. Be prepared with your racial equity matrix and be ready to discuss it in detail. I like that. I'll go ahead and give 1 more minute to this question. I just know that it takes some time to do an open-ended question. And when we put these documents together, we will come and present them and share them with the EAC when it comes to the presentation mechanisms and the feedback that we're working on for this year. We're going to get it together. Another 40 seconds. It hits 29. I mean, 49. We'll move on. All right, Tyrone.
Sorry.
Dr. Council member.
I'm kind of
Carter.
discombobulated on this. Is it okay if I submit my questions after the meeting?
Sure, you
Yes.
can email
Yeah.
us the question, whatever you
Okay.
feel comfortable with.
Okay, I'd rather do that because that way I have more time to reflect on what I'm going to say.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And also, I wanted to articulate that if anybody wants to schedule a one-on-one meeting to talk about this in detail, we can do that as well. To check up on you guys when it comes to, because this is directly to you, not really directed to the public. How would you like to receive information? So go ahead. Edward has his hand up. I'll move to the next question.
So, this seemed like it would be better if I knew who was actually coming to the meeting. I could, make my questions a little bit more specific to the issue at hand. For example, I mean, if somebody was coming from community development, we're talking about housing. Maybe I want to know how and what they're doing complies with fair housing laws, or what equal opportunity provisions lay the foundation for what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I like that. I like that. And I think we're working on getting the information out to you guys a little bit faster. I think right now what we're working on, well, I know right now what we're working on in the council is trying to get those presentations lined out a little bit earlier of who's coming to present so that you guys can say, hey, I want to learn a little bit more information about this, maybe 2 months in advance. So you'll know like, hey, in March, we're doing the housing equity plan. So you want to know more a little bit about housing equity. But sometimes it's a little bit harder for us to get the presentation out to you because we're working on other people's time as well. So we do still want those presentations to come to you. So we can't be like, okay, no, we can't accept your presentation late. If let me ask this question. The Friday that I send out the information, would you guys like 2 emails? So if I do have the information and I do have the presentations, would you like that on Monday or Tuesday or when I get it earlier? Or is that Friday the best time for you guys to receive the information? When is the best time within that week for you to receive that information? Councilmember Tyrone Carter raised his hand first, and then we'll go to Mitchell, and then we'll
I
go
would
live.
say earlier is always better because then you have time to actually look at the information. If you need to research something in regard to the information, you can do that. And it's going to make for a better outcome, I think, for everybody.
But only if we receive the information early. I'll send out an email to confirm, hey, this is the information we've received. We're still waiting on this information. Is that okay? For it just to be a update of informational option. Because sometimes we don't get the presentations until Thursday. Then I have to overlook them. Lila has to overlook them. And then we have to say, hey, can you change this or can you do something? Then they have to send it that Friday morning. So I do want you guys to know that sometimes it's not us, it's people need more time to get their projects done.
And
Go ahead,
Tori,
Lila, then Councilmember Carter.
Tori, I was just going to also share that we send out all the materials after the agenda is posted. And so the agenda has to be posted first, and our deadline to post the agenda is Friday before noon. And that's actually, there's a state statute that requires that we post by Friday, the Friday before the meeting. So sometimes it may or may not be possible to send it out early. But like Tori said, if we get it early, we'll send it out early. But if they send it late and we haven't posted yet, there may be some challenges with sending it that out. But it's generally tied to the agenda.
But we will try harder. Councilmember Carter.
Okay, so last year we did talk, as we discussed the preparation of a work plan, about having a plan in advance of what we were going to see, and you guys have started sharing that with us, but also what considerations we would be reviewing. And I'm raising that now because we're at the beginning of a year. And we know we're going to start seeing these plans as they come in. But what we don't know in advance, so that we can prepare for it, is what considerations are there for us. As you have discussions with those who are bringing presentations forward, you've asked us what questions should we ask them. We should have a plan about what it is that we think we want to do or can do, or what is it that the council needs us to do. In other words, are we comparing this work against the equity framework? If so, are we deeply rooted in that equity framework? And how can we be, so that our questions are aligned with that equity framework? So before they come to us, do they know, what we're going to be looking for? And are they asking us for something specifically that we can give in return? But do we need to prepare for that conversation? Do we need to see their presentation? And I get this. I know that you can't always get the presentations way far in advance, but if we're going to consider something, maybe that means we should meet about it a month later. Timing is difficult. So as I make these suggestions, I know that you're going to temper what you can do based on what is possible. But that preparation to see something and to engage with it and then to give feedback is very important. We need to know, and they need to know before they come, what is the framework we're assessing this work against? They need to tell us what they need from us. Because if we're just listening and then coming up the top of our heads, it may not be our best input. So I just want to let that sit there and say, let's look at the year. Let's consider what we need to do. Not every presentation should come before us, because that could just end up with us seeing some stuff and them being gone. And as you said, Tori, earlier, we don't want this to just be a one and done. We want a relationship. We want to establish some ability to give not just input, but give some advice around the work they're doing. And we want to know that they're prepared to receive it. So what
Yeah.
phase are they at? What do they need? And how are we going to provide that feedback? Questions, yes, but what's our framework? And how, in fact, will we engage with them is a part of the preparation before a presentation comes to us.
Yes. Thank you so much. I love all of this feedback. Let's go to Mitchell. Mitchell, let's make it 1 minute so we can go to Samira and then so that we go to Carmen. You're on mute.
Always feel ridiculous when I do that. This will be easy because Tony actually just kind of covered a lot of what was on my mind. And I just to add on to that, like, we don't get paid for this, but what I get out of this is, like, I'm very honored to be here, and there's a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of wisdom here. And I think in between meetings, like, let's say a topic is kind of like my bread and butter, and I know a lot about it. Can we communicate with each other? Like, hey, I know a lot about this issue, so you don't have to, like, do the research and look through it like I already done it. Just to kind of, like, I feel like that can make it more efficient. And like Tony said, we don't really want to come and just off the top of our head. Yeah, is there a way where we can communicate in between? Thank you.
And we are working on some communication strategies with communication, because we have to be very cautious how we communicate with we're working on that, but we have to be very cautious of how we communicate and the mechanisms we use to do so. So we're looking into some things, and hopefully communication can give us a solution. Go ahead, Samir.
Yeah, I know this kind of echoes the sentiment that others mentioned, not just in this meeting, but in previous meetings. But really, if you just look at it in a simple way, the overall structure is kind of, we come to the meeting, someone comes and presents, and the work is already basically almost complete, in the sense that creating the idea, actually, the very early discussions that I think equity should be a part of from the get-go isn't really had, because what ends up happening is they present, we kind of bring up our concerns or our responses, and then I guess the response to that is to kind of say, oh, we're already doing that, or we're doing that through this, when I almost get the feeling that I'm trying to figure out how to word it. It's almost trying to cater, like, oh, like, it's not really considering what you're saying is what I'm trying to say. It's more so, yeah,
I would call it appease.
Exactly, yeah. So trying to appease you. Thank you so much. That's actually the exact word I was looking for. Trying to appease you, essentially. So just trying to tell you, well, whatever you're saying, without truly engaging with it, we already covered it through this and this and this, but that's not really engaging with us. You're just telling us how every question we have is already answered, when that's not really the case. And so I think that's just an overall thing. And I kind of get the same sentiment or feeling from other people on the board. So I think just very early on, they should be coming and saying, hey, we're thinking of this. Is this even a good idea in the first place? Before we even talk about how we covered your answers. And so, yeah.
And I echo that when it comes to any work within the council, the structures of project management and how they work here, that would be a whole nother conversation for just government work and how it works and all. So what I want to do is, how do we get around some of those things? How can we be more proactive, even if they don't come to us at the end? Like, if they do come to us at the end, and if that's where we are, we just want to say no to them. We don't want them to come. What do we want to say no to, and what do we want to say yes to? I think that's a big question that we need to ask. You guys need to ask yourself as committee members, because maybe not everything may be just something, may be a big information item. So what do we want to say yes to, and what do we want to say no to? And I feel like you guys want us to come to you to give you that option to be able to say yes or no first, even if it's nothing in that month. Or would you guys like it? I know we're over time, but this is a conversation.
But
we are over time.
I just want to
conversation.
I just want to make sure that we get the last person with their hand up. And then also, today is Leah's last meeting. So I wanted to just give her, if you all are willing to just give us a couple more minutes, just give Leah an opportunity to say her final farewell. So Tori, I'll give it back to you. We'll let Carmien go ahead, and then we'll have Leah just say a couple words.
I'm ready to go ahead and pass it. But I just want you guys to think about those things. Like, if there's no presentation that month, is that okay for you if it's just an informational item? Like, what does that look like in total? So just a thinking piece. You can always have a one-on-one conversation with me and Lila about it. And we'll reach back out to have a conversation with you as well.
I just want to say just one thing. I would think we should have a ongoing like planning agenda that we could work on, like sort of like back burner items when we have extra time like that, that we could pull out and kind of work on. Because, you know, if you get a time opening, that's precious, and that would be a good way to use it, I think.
Okay, we can discuss that moving forward. Go ahead.
Tori, you pretty much covered my comments. It was thinking of ways to operationalize what I was hearing from some of the other members. And it seemed like having a standing agenda item where we review people who have requested to come to us and we make the decision about whether they come to us or not. Perhaps based on an application that they submit in advance. It gives us both knowledge of what is coming and the ability to make sure that we don't feel tokenized, but rather that the proposal is for meaningful engagement.
Love that. Love that suggestion. We'll talk to your co-chairs about it, and we'll figure out how we can implement some steps into the agenda to do some of those pieces that we want to do. And anybody else that may want to be involved in the conversation, don't feel left out. Go ahead, Leah, take it away.
I won't take long because it's very late, but I have loved serving on the EAC for these last 5.5 years, coming up on my term limit. So I thought clean slate at the beginning of the year, give you a chance to recruit someone new. I have been so impressed with the staff, Tori and Lila. Just I was there when you first started and got to know you over the years, and I really appreciate how much you've thought through and what our committee needs. And there wasn't a single meeting where I didn't just leave so impressed with the knowledge and wisdom of the people on this committee. I've never been an expert in anything other than data, so it was so fun to be here with experts in transit and housing and community and justice policy. So it was truly an honor and a pleasure to be on this committee.
Thank you, Leah, so much. Just having you, I was just reflecting a little while ago of when you were just co-chair and that transition and all that. Thank you for everything you've done for the committee and all the work that you did on the bylaws. Your contributions have been incredibly valuable to the committee, to the council, to us. Thank you so much. And please, this is a public meeting at any time. Please feel free to come on in and join us and share some of your thoughts. And we wish you the best of luck on everything you do in the future.
Yes, thank you.
And
so
I'll
much.
put my email and phone number in the chat because people are welcome to get in touch with me. I know you guys
Yes,
do a
we
good
love
job of
that.
trying to keep us private, but I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you, Leah.
Thanks.
Well, with that, I believe we've completed our agenda here, and I also want to send my thank you to Leah. You've had some great questions, and it's as we get in these discussions, your thoughts were always helpful and well taken. Is there anything else anyone wants to add before we close the meeting? This was our first virtual meeting. I thought it was successful. I think it's really allowed for more feedback and people to move around. And I love having quorum. That was a big item here. But all right, if there's no other questions or any comments here, again, appreciate all your work, and this meeting is adjourned.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year once again. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.